Do not move to Mongolia unless you know what you're signing up for. Whew. When I told people that I was moving to Mongolia to live off grid, you know, they picture beautiful drone shots of riding horses into the sunset, maybe in a nice warm gear, drinking milk tea, which I've done both. But they don't picture the freezing cold and some of the struggles that you have here. Since we've come up to celebrating our 5 years anniversary living in Mongolia, we've actually had a few people reach out over the years about wanting to move here and what it takes to live here. So today I'm going to give you my unfiltered, brutal truth about what it takes to survive here as an expat. First thing that you need to understand, there is actually a difference between a normal expat and a resident like I am. But saying that, if you're an English-speaking white person like I am, you're pretty much an expat. So a typical expat will come here on a 1 or 2 year contract. The company will help them with the visa. They will have a nice apartment in the city. But eventually, after a few years, they will pack up and go home and probably earn some good money in the process. Well, our situation is a little bit different. You know, since I'm married to Zula and she's a Mongolian, so, you know, we're not just passing through. We're here trying to actually set up a permanent life. Actually, I'm doing this because this is the window controls for the heat controls for our windows in the greenhouse. But one of these STC 1000s is giving a very high temperature, which is not right. So I don't know if it's the STC which is faulty or if it is the electrical cable. We will test it out. Seems to be just the probe. So I'll just leave on the new probe for now. And we'll see. So, working again. You know, the funny thing is that whether you're a temporary expat or a foreign resident, you know, some of the laws here in Mongolia, well, they will humble you. A bit of a disclaimer. First off, these are just my observations. Normally, I don't throw my 2 cents into this channel, but I thought this time, well, what the hell? You know, I'm just a guy trying to build a self-sufficient, self-sustaining life here for my family. So I could be completely wrong about some of these laws that they have here in Mongolia and how things work. So if you are a seasoned expat or know something that is a bit different, you're welcome to contact me in the comments down below, and we would love to hear from you. One of the first things that people always ask me is when it comes to housing is like, you know, can we buy a house instead of renting like in the city? So if you read the law, actually as a foreigner, you can, of course, you're welcome to buy a house and you can put it in your name, but there's a catch. You can't own the land that you put your house on. So as a foreigner, you're not allowed to buy the land. What you can do is you can get a lease. So I was under the impression that even a foreigner couldn't lease land here in Mongolia, but apparently you can. But there's also a catch to that as well, is you can only lease the land and you will get a 5-year lease. So the land is owned by the government, but every 5 years you would have to go into the city and kind of beg the government, please, can you extend my lease for another 5 years? So you can keep your house, which is kind of tricky, especially if you want to come and invest lots and lots of money into your house, but you only have a 5-year lease. What happens if they don't renew the lease? Yeah, so it's a bit rough. But the brutal truth is the same things happen to Mongolians. Well, the same thing is happening to us here as well, is that, yes, we own the house, but we don't own the land that the house is on. Mongolians will also, when you buy a house, it will automatically come with like the lease for the land. And Mongolians normally get a very long lease, so you don't really have to worry about that. But it is still tricky. So we're still in the process of trying to get the land in my family's name. But it's, yeah, it's really tricky and it could be denied. Yeah, so that is one of the things to think about. So if you're a foreigner or an expat thinking about coming here, wanting to buy a house or buy land, you might have to go the way around as to actually put it in a Mongolian's name so that you can have it. We have some foreign couple living not too far from us, and they had to do it that way. So the house and the land is not in their name, even though it is their house. So besides the legal headache of property and land, the other two things is the language and the food. Well, the language, I mean, when I first arrived here, it was a little bit challenging, you know, even going to the shops. I spent 30 minutes, you know, using my phone, trying to show pictures of a little screw that I wanted. It was a real challenge. But things have actually changed quite a lot here in Mongolia. You go into the city and all the kids can pretty much speak English. All the kids in university can pretty much speak English. That has changed drastically over the last couple of years, where you can walk down the city and you'll see Mongolian kids and they're just speaking English. So language is really not a big problem at all. I really struggle with learning Mongolian because I'm dyslexic and I struggle a lot with phonetical languages. So yeah, it's going to take me a really long time to learn Mongolian. I learn it step by step, kind of what I hear, and I can practice those words. So I know enough words to get by, but it's not the end of the world. You can, you know, live in Mongolia and you can not be able to speak the language. But when you learn a few words and you start using those few words, Mongolians really are happy that you learn those words. Sometimes it gets a little bit technical when you have like paperwork to do or things like that. I need to use Zula's help. But yeah, it's one of those things. These are the raised beds that we built and burnt Shushugi barn. So hopefully this weekend we can finish them off, because last weekend, wow, we had such a storm. I think everybody knows about it in Mongolia, or in Ulaanbaatar anyway. The weather just dropped and it snowed and it was a storm all day. But yeah, food in Mongolia. Well, I mean, we've been traveling to Mongolia since 2011, so things have drastically changed. But food in Mongolia has always been like a survival thing. So it's very heavy on meat, very heavy on carbohydrates. So vegetables, you know, things have changed over the last 10, 12 years with big shops and imported vegetables. You can get pretty much anything that you need, but it's expensive. That is the bit of a challenge. Not every shop has everything, but prices definitely have gone up quite a lot. And that's why we have the winter greenhouse. So we can grow our own things. And we also know exactly what nutrition we put into it. So we know that we're getting the best ecological vegetables. Yeah, but to be fair, things have changed quite a lot in Mongolia. If you travel into the city, you know, we have world-class restaurants now. So whether you want Japanese food or Korean food or Indian food, everything is available. So yeah, things have changed on the food side in Mongolia quite a lot. A quick coffee break before I need to get back to work. But you know, when you go into the city, I've met so many expats over the last couple of years. And yeah, when you go into the city, you're gonna run into some expats. And I just thought, just for fun, I just thought like, can I kind of categorize the different types of expats? So I'm going to have a look at this, and you tell me in the comments, please, like, what do you think? What type of expats are there? And if you fall into any of these categories. So I came up with these ones. So first one, number one, is the Zeisen bubble. The Zeisen bubble is a bit like, you know, Gangnam, Gangnam style. So the Zeisen bubble, you know, these are the executives. They work in the city. They, you know, they have pretty good jobs. They live in some really nice apartments. All drive around in SUVs. Yeah, that's one type. Number two is the Gobi roster workers. These are the miners, and man, they work hard. They're working 12-hour shifts, you know, all the time. They work non-stop, and then they come to the city and they're here pretty much for 2 days on their breaks, and they're just pretty much catching up on sleep before they have to head back to the mines. Number three is the serious hardcore NGOs. Now these people, you know, they live out in the country. Yeah, they live the Mongolian life. They will eat the mutton, the meat, you know, and they speak fluent Mongolian. They will put us all to shame. Yeah, the serious NGOs. Yeah, the lost adventurers, you know, those are people that kind of come here. They go horse riding for a couple of weeks, or they go mountain bike, motorbike driving, and before they know it, 3 years later, they're still here, you know. Interesting people. Okay, number four, or number five actually. They're absorbed by the in-laws. That's me, you know, where you come, you get so involved with your family, and you end up doing stuff with your family and your in-laws all the time. So, or yeah, you come here and you get married, and then you have a Mongolian wife or a Mongolian husband. Number six, the off-grid crazy person. Well, that's me too, you know, wants to build geothermal greenhouse, solar panels, and be self-sufficient and self-sustaining here in Mongolia. You'll also find that you'll have a lot of expat teachers here in Mongolia, which is really, really good. Really, really good. All right. Finish my coffee and then head back to work. Yeah, so whether you're an executive expat or an off-grid crazy person like myself, there's still some things in Mongolia that you can't avoid. Some laws. Traffic is one of them. The traffic has got better over the last couple of years, or I've just got used to it. But yeah, it's terrible. It's one of those things that you have to be here to experience. But you get used to it, and you know that there are secret roads that you can take, and what time you can go, and where you shouldn't drive and where you should drive. It's one of those things you can't really avoid. Things to think about is kind of your driver's license. You can drive on a foreign driver's license for 3 months, but you need to have your passport with you. After that, the cops take it pretty seriously, and you'll get pretty good fine, and they'll take away your car if you do that. So you would have to change from your overseas license to a Mongolian license, and there are people here that will help you with the paperwork and things like that. It's not a train smash. It's not a big problem. Things that will catch you out, depending on the car that you have. You can, 1 day a week, you're not allowed to drive the car. That always goes to do through the last number. So it depends on your license plate, whether your car is allowed to drive today or not. So yeah, 1 day a week, not allowed to drive the car, but you get away with it. You get around it anyway. Yeah, I don't know so many of strange laws in Mongolia. Please, if you know any strange laws, let me know. I came across the one which is called a 48-hour couch surfing law. Pretty much, if you show up at a friend's place and you sleep on their sofa, They have 48 hours to report you to the government that you are there, otherwise they can get a fine. It's a very funny law. Yeah, but no, nothing really strange. But if you hear anything, please let me know. All right, back to work. Yeah, so besides dealing with the harsh climate and navigating which day I'm not allowed to drive in the city, we would like some things to be a little bit easier. And that is true when it comes to your finances. So when it comes to finances here in Mongolia, overseas, whether you are paying for rent or you're buying material or you want to send money back overseas, it can be a little bit of a nightmare. Especially when we first came, especially when you want to go and transfer money, it's multiple bank visits and things like that. When we came here, we had quite a bit of finances overseas where we were able to bring that money into the country, and that was really, really easy. But of course, once you've exhausted all that, you still have bank accounts in other countries, and you, like us, we have some commitments. Still in the UK, we have family. So to get money there has been tricky, but now it is much, much easier. So what we use is an app called SendMN. It's absolutely huge here. I think like 1 in every 3 expats use it daily. SendMN is a fintech non-bank institution, and they've made it possible to send money to about 100 different countries. And they have really competitive rates and exchange rates, making it so much easier to send money out of the country. Their mission is to make transfer overseas faster, easier, and more accessible. So it works really, really well. Here, let me show you how it works. Yeah, so like I said, we still have some ties in the UK, we have some family there, and yeah, it's always good to have a little bit of finances in your UK account or in your American account or any other country. So yeah, it's really, really fast. For UK, you can send, I think, about £3,500, and you're only paying a flat fee of like £3. With like no hidden percentages or anything, so that's absolutely great. Yeah, so as you can see, pretty simple. It's gone straight through. It'll be in my UK account already. You can also send to America. I think like the top is like you can send a maximum of $100,000 and you only pay $3 for it. Really simple, really easy, and it makes the whole expat financial situation stress-free, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, so I will actually leave a link in the description if you are an expat living here, or if you're planning on moving here. I would highly recommend having this app. It makes it so much more simple. So at the end of the day, Mongolia is definitely not for the faint of heart. The weather will test you, some of the rules, but if you respect the culture and respect the climate and put in the hard work, Mongolia can be one of the most rewarding places you will ever be. The freedoms that you have here are like no other place in the entire world. I wouldn't give up Mongolia for absolutely anything. I would highly recommend it. So guys, thank you so much. And please put in the comments your expat experiences. I would love to hear from you guys. And we will see you on the next one. Bye.